Hi, I'm Sean Ryan. My group, we were doing a project on new equipment in football and how it relates to injuries. So the first one is why is it being studied? Well, there's a bunch of cases of CTE, which we'll get into a little bit after, where there's a lot of deceased former football players. So parents and coaches and stuff and kids are wondering, why should I play football if with this risk of concussion? So researchers are trying to find out if there's ways they can help reduce the amount of concussions while still playing football. So let's go to the next slide. And this is the question. So does the new equipment being studied and tested today in football help prevent concussions?
Hi, my name is Francis Cardone, and I may be going into more detail about what concussions really are. Concussion is a type of traumatic brain injury, or TBI, caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or by a hit to the body that causes the head and brain to move rapidly back and forth. It's really when the brain really hits the front of your skull, and it causes like water to be included into your brain, which slows down like thinking processes and stuff. It says the sudden movement can cause the brain to bounce around or twist in the skull, stretching and damaging the brain cells and creating chemical changes to the brain. There's 4 types of effects. It's physical, mental, sleep, and emotional. It affects thinking. It causes doesn't let us think clearly. It causes headaches and blurry vision, irritability. We lose a little sleep. We're more emotional, and we have trouble falling asleep more too. And we're also more nervous and more anxious.
Hello, my name is Carlos, and today I'm going to be talking to you about concussion statistics. So the CDC estimates reveal that there's 1.6 million to 3.8 million concussions occurring each year. Fewer than 10% of the sports-related concussion involves loss in consciousness. 75% chance for concussions are predominantly more in males, and estimated 47% of athletes do not report feeling any symptoms after concussion blows. Next slide. The incidence of concussions in high school. According to the American Journal of Sports and Medicine, there was an incident relative to risk of concussions of 12 boys and girls sports between the years of 97 to 98 and 2007, 2008, predominantly showing that football was the main sports that basically show signs of concussions. Next slide, please. So chronic traumatic encephalopathy basically is a condition associated with repeated impacts to the head that degenerates the brain, affecting the brain cells. Next slide, please. And then these are 2 former NFL players that actually died from CTE. They basically committed suicide. In order for us to determine, we have to basically take samples of the brain after their death, which is a little bit hard to determine concussions at the moment.
All right, now we're going to be talking about some equipment that is used in football. First, we're going to talk about helmets. The first report use of helmets was in the 1893 game that had Army and Navy. Helmets have evolved throughout the 1900s to prevent catastrophic head injury and the resultant morbidity and mortality. Early helmets consisted of like leather padding with no face mask. Slowly phased out for metal and plastics to provide additional protection. Basic helmets were not a requirement in college football until 1939 and in the NFL until 1940. And the National Operating Committee on Standards for Athletic Equipment, founded in 1969 to initiate research efforts for head protection, implemented first football helmet safety standards in 1973. The primary concern that the helmets respond to the most severe linear acceleration, including impacts rather than the different types of forces and ways that could result in a concussion. This test is designed to check also for protection against skull fractures and has largely been unchanged since it was implemented in 1973. Football helmets have also been evolved from leather headgear to more modern designs. Metal, plastics, and rubbers were incorporated since they used to use just leather. Since the 1970s, helmets have been constructed with a rigored polycarbonated shell, a steel face mask, and padding combination of foam and inflatability air bladders like you see over here. Vices Zero lessens the force of blow to the head by installing 4 separate layers of protection. One is the outer layer. It helps to form and absorb shock and then rebounds. Layer of polymer columns that move in multiple directions to reduce force. Hard inner shells to prevent skull fractures and brain bleeds. And layers of memory foam for comfort. Challenge is to reduce impact in the small narrow space between the outside of the helmet and the player's head. Next slide. This is just a picture of the Vice-01 that we were just talking about. And conclusions for helmet advancements. The new designs are currently being tested with drop tests, and other contact tests are showing great signs of progress. So basically what they're doing is having these helmets and just dropping them on the floor to see how much impact they can sustain, and also putting them on dummies and having them collide with each other to see how much impact is sustained as well. While advancements are definitely promising, more focus needs to be paid attention to how helmets can be changed to absorb hits and limit concussions.
So I'm going to be talking to you about mouth guards and concussions. So basically, a mouth guard will act as a shock absorber by reducing the head acceleration from an impact due to the chin throughout an upward blow. There is no exact origin of when was a mouth guard invented, but it was mainly used for the sports of boxing. According to the Academy of Sport Dentistry, it must fit accurately, stay in position during impact, and redistribute the impact energy. Thickness should be between 3 millimeters and up in the posterior occlusal area in order to reduce the incidence of concussion when the trauma is applied. The posterior occlusal area will be basically in between both teeth. And according to the NFL rulebook, helmets, face protectors, shoulders, thigh, and knee pads are mandatory for all the athletes, but there is no mention of mouth guard protection, which raises concerns. There are different types of mouth guards. The first one will be the stock mouth guard. It's less expensive and less protective, bulky and lack of retention. Some of the effects that this type of mouth guard has is it makes it difficult for the player to speak as well as to breathing. The second one will be the boil and bite. The way this mouth guard works, basically, you have to boil the mouth guard on hot water, which will make the plastic more flexible, and then you have to apply pressure by biting it. Some of the effects on this one will be the bit and pressure hard to control, which causes the posterior occlusal area, which will be in between teeth, to decrease, providing less protection. The third one will be the vacuum form custom. Basically, it's taking a measurement of this type of material. It's called ethylene vinyl acetate, and basically you're just gonna take the measurements and put it in a mold, and then make the mouth guard piece. This type of material is at least more resistant than the other ones. Some of the property effects will be the design custom and coverage of all teeth without impact on muscle attachment. And the final one, and most preferable by dentists, will be the pressure laminated. It's made out of the same material, greater control of thickness in the posterior area, and it's about 3 to 4 millimeters thick for maximum protection. These are different types of mouth guard fitting. As you can see, without a mouth guard, the condyle of the maxillary area is right next to the mandible, which causes like a greater impact on the brain when being hit low to the head. And the difference is with the mouth guard, the separation between the head and the condyle with the base of the skull for a proper fit. In conclusion, basically mouth guards are essential for prevention of concussions as well as for dental damage. Although there are different types, physicians recommend the vacuum and the pressure laminated one, as I explained before. It is impossible to measure the head impact in humans, and the only improvements for mouth guards at the moment are changing the material. Mouth guards will start to deteriorate throughout the sports season, and it should be replaced after each season.
So our final equipment is not, people don't think it's equipment, but it really is. It's the playing surfaces. So what do you play underneath? So concussions. I mean, this is Alex Smith, who played for the Chiefs. He had a concussion this year from hitting his head on the surface. So in a study of high school and collegiate football players by the Concussion Legacy Foundation, which has started to help try to study about concussions, they said that 10% of all concussions were when you hit the floor. And there's so many factors, but 10% of them just when you hit the floor. And then in 15 and 19-year-olds in Canada, 5 to 19-year-olds, excuse me, 11.5% of all football-related concussions result in head-to-surface impact. So it's when you hit your head to the surface. You can go to the next slide. So youths that are greater risk. I mean, if you know anything about motor development, you know that when they're growing, their head weighs a lot more than their body mass. So 25.9% of all concussions occur through 5 to 9. That's when they get their concussions. A lot of them because they can't control hitting the floor because their head is so heavy. The child's head mass is not evenly proportionate to their body mass, and it doesn't allow, like I said, to control their head as they're being tackled to the turf. When we're older, when we're in college and older and professional, their body mass and head size is more proportionate, so they can kind of control where their head is going. I mean, you obviously can't control fully, but it's easier. So you can go next slide. So there's possible new turf. There's a lot of tests being done. So Viconic Sport has received $1.25 million from the NFL, GE, which is General Electric, and Under Armour, to help develop its padding technology now used in automobiles on their turf fields when they are installed. So if you see, it's on the extra layer here, it's like an absorber. So you can go to the next slide to explain more. So conclusion for playing services. So we all know helmets and mouth guards, especially helmets, are really being studied because they're well known. Everybody knows that you have to use a helmet and it helps you, protect your face and your head. But people don't really understand that turf fields are really important too. I mean, we're trying to look for new studies to help the absorbent underneath, but it's also you got to maintain your turf fields. If you don't maintain your turf fields, there's a greater risk of injury, whether head injury or any other part of your body. So with more technology for turf fields and more studies, it'll help benefit the players and the kids that play on it, along with helmets and mouth guards.
So in conclusion, for our concussions area, limitations and arguments, these tests and equipments are very expensive and takes a long time to test. Furthermore, it is hard for you to examine concussions on live persons. Therefore, it raises concerns. The current ideas for new helmets and mouth guards may not be comfortable enough for athletes. That's another concern. So we need to basically develop new type of materials in order for them to be comfortable as well. And Heads Up Football, which is an organization that deals with kids, works alongside with the NFL. Recently published an article stating that medical experts believe that concussion safety starts with proper technique and fundamentals, just as explained from the coach side or the physicians or any other type of professional. With regards to concussions and football, we need to make sure that our athletes know how to perform well within the sports, have proper form, know how to fall to the ground or other aspects as well.
Now we're going to get into some suggestions. The NFL should really spend more of their money to study ways to enhance equipment and technology and help reduce concussions, because it all starts with the NFL. They're the stepping stone, they're the role model for little kids everywhere in youth sports. So if kids see professional athletes now wearing mouth guards or small shoulder pads and not knee pads, they want to act like them and be like them, so they're going to act and be like them as well, like in their games. Players should be required to wear helmets with extra padding at all levels, not just the NFL. Again, that ties into them being the role models. If the little kids don't see them wearing it, why would they wear it? And playing services should be paid attention to more and be invested more time by the NFL. If you're saying that 10% of concussions all come from player to ground impact, it should definitely raise some eyebrows and be opened up more to spending more time and money in it. These are our references, and we just want to thank everybody for watching this video.